Ciao a tutti e bentornati a Italian Accelerator, episodio 5, Explainer lesson numero 4. Yes, that's right. I'm Manu and this is Italy Made Easy, and I'm here to serve you another delicious, if you watched the other lesson, you know that we don't use delicious for food in Italian, a delicious lesson to help you improve your Italian and take it to the next level. The whole lesson is based on Italian Accelerator episode 5, which is a lovely chat that I had with my friend Lisa, who speaks really slowly, naturally, so we all understand her very well. And it's only the beginning of my conversation with her. There's going to be many more episodes with Lisa, so I know you're enjoying her and her company and her language. And what I do is I ask you to watch that chat many times with and without subtitles, look up words, and then come back to this. And this lesson will explain more expressions that we used and more details on the grammar that we used and some cultural aspects that may have come up in our conversation. So let's start.
Insomma, siamo venuti in Sunshine Coast e siamo rimasti folgorati da questo posto spettacolare. La nostra casa è a 2 passi dall'oceano.
E insomma, siamo venuti in Sunshine Coast. E insomma, I've already spoken about insomma in another episode of Italian Accelerator, but basically it's like saying, summing up. So basically, we came to the Sunshine Coast. So in English, sometimes that insomma renders the idea of basically. So the Italian insomma sometimes renders the idea of the English basically. But anytime you're concluding and you're saying that, and so basically to sum things up, this. So we did all those things, you know, with Brisbane, with paperwork, and at the end we ended up on the sunny coast, okay, the Sunshine Coast. E insomma, that's an expression that we use a lot in Italian, so I would love for you to use it a bit more and be, yeah. Siamo rimasti folgorati. Few things. Siamo rimasti is the passato prossimo of rimanere. Rimanere, 2 things. Rimanere is an intransitive verb, therefore the auxiliary has to be essere. That's the topic for today, isn't it? Siamo rimasti. Rimasto is the irregular past participle of rimanere. We don't say rimanuto. It doesn't exist. You have to say rimasto. Because the auxiliary is essere, rimasto has to agree to plural because there's 2 of them. Siamo rimasti. Now, folgorato, that means electrocuted or struck by lightning, okay? That's the idea of folgorato. So, siamo rimasti folgorati, it means we were left impressed, you know, like, I'm gonna use electrocuted, but that's not what it means, okay? But we were left electrocuted. So that's siamo rimasti. That's something that it's a little bit tricky to be able to understand how it works, but let me see if I can. Whenever in English you say, and I was left something, sono rimasto molto deluso. I was left very disappointed. Now, of course, I could say, sono molto deluso. I am disappointed. But often you want to stress the fact that you were left in a certain way. Okay? Sono rimasto molto sorpreso da quello che hai detto. I was very surprised by what you said. Sono rimasto sorpreso. It's a lot more common to say that than sono stato sorpreso, which is the literal I was surprised. So start thinking if what you're trying to say would imply that somebody or something else made you that way, you can probably use this expression. Siamo rimasti folgorati, siamo rimasti felici, siamo rimasti poveri, we were left broke, okay? Siamo rimasti poveri. So that's kind of difficult, but good.
Dall'oceano.
Cosa ti piace di più? Cosa ti piace di più della Sunshine Coast?
Della Sunshine Coast, visto che noi abbiamo vissuto sempre dentro nelle città, arrivati qui diciamo è come la realizzazione di un sogno, è come avere una spiaggia privata.
Ok, visto che noi abbiamo sempre vissuto bla 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 in grandi città, since we've always lived in big cities, here's the visto che again. Visto che noi abbiamo sempre vissuto since or seen that we've always lived in big cities. Again, that visto che meaning since, as in considering that. Here's a cool usage of a past participle. Arrivati qui. Lisa says arrivati qui. She didn't say siamo arrivati, like we arrived here. She just said arrivati qui. Whenever you hear an Italian do that, using a past participle by itself, often it means once we, and that verb. So arrivati qui means once we arrived here. Arrivati qui abbiamo comprato una casa. Once we arrived here, we bought a house. So we could say finita la cena, andiamo a prendere un gelato. Finished dinner, so once we finish dinner, we are going for an ice cream, okay? So let's see if you can use it. Maybe write down an example, write a comment with an example of when you could say that. But I could say, comprata la macchina, devi fare l'assicurazione. So once you bought a car, you have to buy insurance. So comprata la macchina, it's like saying una volta, once. As in, once you've done something. So, una volta comprata la macchina, devi fare l'assicurazione. So, once you bought a car. Okay, so that kind of once, okay? Don't confuse it with the once as in I've only done it once. Different once. So, once we moved here, it was like la realizzazione di un sogno. In English, a dream come true. È stata come la realizzazione di un sogno. Realizzare i propri sogni means to realize one's dreams, as in to materialize. So, la realizzazione di un sogno means a dream come true.
Diciamo è come la realizzazione di un sogno, è come avere una spiaggia privata, pochissime persone.
Praticamente ce l'avete la spiaggia privata?
Praticamente sì, a 2 passi da casa.
Senti, invece in Italia di dove sei? So basically, their place is very near the ocean, and she said, it's like having a private beach, and then I said, praticamente ce l'avete la spiaggia privata, so you basically have a private beach, right? Praticamente. That's another way of saying basically, okay? That's why dictionaries won't help you with these very useful words, because they're so colorful in English, and they are colorful in Italian, so there's many ways of saying it. So basically, so praticamente, so practically, you have it. The one thing I want to point out is that c'è. In Italian, I would say, praticamente avete la spiaggia privata. You basically have a private beach. I wouldn't need the c'è l'apostrophe. Why is it there? Because in colloquial Italian, we tend to double up the object of a verb. So we use the pronoun that replaces it. In that case, would be the l'apostrophe, meaning it, the private beach, yeah? Praticamente, l'avete, you basically have it. What happens that I've already spoken about this in another episode, but whenever we are using a direct object pronoun and the verb that we're using it with is the verb to have, avere, we have to throw in the c'è, just for sound reasons. So we have to say praticamente ce l'avete and not praticamente l'avete. Okay, so that's grammatically correct. But it's incorrect because I'm then saying la spiaggia, which is the object that the apostrophe is replacing. So it's like saying you basically have it, the beach. Okay, so that's what Italians do. That's why when you hear an Italian speak English, they will often do this. The books, I've got them. The coffee, I've ordered it. So we double up the topic. So I don't know if other languages do it, but I know English doesn't really do it much. But that's what it's happening. So it's grammatically incorrect, but practically it's how we speak. Doubling up, putting the pronoun for something that we're replacing, and then still say the thing that we replaced.
E noi veniamo da Pescara, mio marito di Ortona, insomma, poco distante da Pescara, ma una bella cittadina sul mare.
Okay, and then I asked Lisa, where are you guys from in Italy? And she says, noi veniamo da Pescara. We come from Pescara. This is literally the same as English, so why am I saying it? Well, because you're probably used to the question, di dove sei? of where are you, which is the Italian way of saying where are you from. So di dove sei or di dove siete is the way we ask. But there is another way which is similar to the English where do you come from? And it's da dove vieni? Da dove venite? From where do you guys come? Da dove vieni? Da dove venite? So her answer, noi veniamo da Pescara, we come from Pescara, is actually good Italian. It's not bad Italian. If you thought, is she speaking an Italianized version of English? No, that's Italian. And Pescara, her husband is from Ortona, which is poco distante da Pescara, not too far from Pescara, poco distante. Distante means far. We could use lontano, but we tend to use poco distante when something is not too far. So poco distante da Pescara, not far from Pescara. Una bella cittadina, a nice little town. That cittadina, I've spoken about these kind of words, cittadina, in the Ask Manu Italiano episode number 11, where I talked about how to talk about towns and villages and places like that. But yes, una bella cittadina means it's just it's a nice little town. Cittadina is like a short version of città, but it's not really a city, it's a little city.
Non distante anche dalla montagna.
E vicino che città italiana che possono conoscere?
Diciamo che 2 ore da Roma, però sul mare Adriatico, diciamo la parte est.
Dall'altra parte.
Ecco, dall'altra parte.
Okay. Okay, so I asked what other Italian city is Pescara near, like a city that our audience might know. And she said it's a couple of hours from Rome. It's also not far from the mountains. And then it's on the Adriatic side. And I said, dall'altra parte. Dall'altra parte is our way of saying on the other side. So even though it's got the preposition da, which means from, we use it to mean on the other side of anything, okay? Dall'altra parte. The other side of the road, dall'altra parte, the other side of Italy, the other side of a political range, it's still dall'altra parte, okay? Ragazzi, per non perdere nessuna lezione di italiano, attivate le notifiche. Si fa così. Prima vi iscrivete al canale, poi fate clic sulla campana vicino al bottone rosso e selezionate quest'opzione. Salvate e via! Facile, no?